Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us in this live session. I'm Alejandro Kikuchi, or Kiku, from Workana, sitting not at our office right now, sitting at home in Kuala Lumpur, in Malaysia. So, tech, digital marketing, data, this has been growing for decades, right? But in the past 18 months, the acceleration was massive. And one big question that's been around for some time is, how do we make sure we keep on having amazing talent to work with as the demand for these kinds of roles grows? On one hand, Workana is working closely with many companies, helping them reliably hire and work with remote developers, marketers, data scientists, that kind of roles. This kind of talent is far easier to find when you run a borderless organization, instead of just hiring, in the city where your HQ sits. And on the other hand, of course, education is key. That's where a company such as RevoU comes into play, as they provide a platform for preparing people for the most in-demand jobs. So today, our guest is Andrew, Head of Content Marketing for RevoU. Let me add him to the stream. Hi, Andrew.
Yo, Kiku.
Hey,
how are you?
How are you? Doing
Very
all right?
good, very good. Yeah, I'm doing right back in Jakarta. Yeah.
Right. Because you were living in Malaysia and now you moved back to Jakarta.
Correct. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, hey, thank you so much for joining. Appreciate you taking the time. And as I was saying, education is a key aspect to ensure that the demands of the industry are satisfied, to ensure that new generations, or not necessarily new generations, are prepared to undertake, right, these kinds of roles.
Yeah.
Great.
Exactly. Yeah. True.
Yeah. All right. So first of all, as an introduction, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and about the company?
Yeah, for sure. I started my career as a political consultant back in 2014. So it's like helping one of my lecturer at my university the last time, setting up this political marketing agency. At that year was a huge elections back in Indonesia. So we were helping one of the candidate to run their so-called creative campaign targeting youth, young voters, basically. Fast forward 2016, had a chance to move to Malaysia, helping an e-commerce aggregator company, so-called iPress, and I spent 5 years in Malaysia. So I think that's why I had a chance to experience KL and other cities in Malaysia. I've worked with amazing content marketing team across Southeast Asia, so Thailand, Philippines, Vietnam, and etc. So in 2021, I decided to, after 5 years at iPress, I think I've decided to back to motherland, which is Indonesia, back to Jakarta, to helping one of the fastest growing and edutech companies in Indonesia, which is RevoU, and again helping them building from scratch the content marketing team. A short introductions about RevoU. It's basically an online educations academy where we're helping people to transform their career into tech industries, because I think especially during this COVID-19 period, a lot of industries are being disrupted, and then most people are looking for another alternatives for a career, which is the growing now. It's like a tech industry. So that's why we are helping them to move probably from traditional industries to tech industries. We are helping them within several. We have several so-called classes. So starting from digital marketing, now we are also helping with tech sales or business development, and soon we are also launching our data analytics vertical, which is another verticals that I think a lot of people also had interest in that, and a lot of demand also from companies. So yep, I think that's a very short intro from my side.
Okay, thank you. That's great. And I think, as I was mentioning in the introduction, that makes so much sense. On one hand, there's people whose jobs, companies, or industries were disrupted with all of this. At the same time, other businesses are seeing so much growth in their digital worlds, right? And so much advertising has shifted towards digital, for example, because of course, as cities went into lockdowns, a billboard in the main avenue wasn't yielding that great results, right? On the other hand, people weren't more online, so digital marketing and the associated data analytics needs, tech sales, because then these companies need to also grow on that side of things, make a ton of sense and bridges that gap, right? I think, yeah, it's a great position to be in currently in
Yeah, we're
Revolut.
lucky. Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So. And considering these changes, and well, you just mentioned adding, for example, courses on data analytics. So I guess that's one. What other changes have you seen in your company or your industry that happened because of the pandemic?
Yeah, when speaking on the eyes of overall industries of edu tech, I think in Indonesia or even in Southeast Asia, I think the growth is pretty big. I'm looking for more and more edu tech companies has been joining the wave of providing this service to people, especially because of right now we are kind of forced to be online, where the educations, the traditional educations is probably not as ready as this edutech companies when it comes to providing an like equally good educations via online. Because speaking like right now, right? So I'm speaking into a monitor and then I'm seeing you. It's not something that is natural for human being. So for teachers to be able to teach couple of students online and keep them engaged is something that's pretty challenging for them. So that's why I think, industry wise, the people, a lot of founders are deciding to, I think we can help, to bridge those gap between people who really want to learn with the quality of education that right now being provided by, university, for example. Right. So that's one. And on the other hand, I think, right, like what I mentioned before, the reasons why we are expanding our verticals is because we saw the demand in the industries, right? So people are some of the most of the tech companies are are growing rapidly because of the COVID-19. And they have more and more people are using their services, and as a result of that, they need more people to help them in their team, right? So that's why we are seeing more and more companies are looking for a high quality digital marketer, and that's why we are launching first our digital marketing full stack class. And after that, we are also seeing that a lot of companies need a really good a tech salesperson. So because it's a bit different when you are selling like a door to door. First you are selling like a tech product, which is sometime it's becoming like a questions like, what is this, right? So if from HubSpot, you cannot just tell people that I'm selling this, because you need to educate them, right? So it's like a really
Right.
different really different field than you are selling like a banana, for example. So that's why we are launching that. And another thing that is also growing in industries that the data itself. So I think first I was discussing about I was telling you about the industries that a lot of companies is growing on providing this edutech service. On the other hand, the edutech companies is also continuously providing more and more. So it's becoming like university, like a 2.0, where they are typically universities start with one major, right? After that, they see and then they develop, launch it more and more major. And in the same case, like this right now. And when it comes to changes or of the business, more like and doing more and more experiment on that, because I think since day one, especially for Revoyu, we are on online since day one, so it's relatively easier for us to adapt to this new normal versus
Right.
probably other company that's used to start as an offline, where they invest a lot on the buildings and offices and etc. So I think those are some changes that I was experiencing both on in Revoyu, and also I'm observing on a higher level, which is on industries itself.
Right, definitely. And related to that, have you, for example, hired people recently?
Man, the grow, I mean, the growth is pretty fast, I would say. I think right now, I mean, we started at the, end on an early, I think end of 2019. Um, and right now we almost hit like around 60 plus, which is, at a company at our stage right now. It's pretty fast for the headcount growth.
Right.
And then, every week we hire more and more people, just because the demand is getting higher, then meaning that we require more people to help us to build this, because of the scale is also getting bigger, and then the more verticals we are launching, meaning that the more people that we need, to help us and building this the business itself.
Right. The opportunity also,
That's
it's
true.
there, basically. Right. Yeah. And related to what you were saying about uh, the changes in the businesses, and how, for example, in Revo, you were already an online company, so the pandemic did not necessarily negatively affect your processes or that kind of thing. But when it comes to hiring someone and onboarding someone new for the team, um, are there any specific methodologies or tools you implemented for compensating for the lack of face-to-face time, basically?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure it's become a challenge for everyone, at any level, at any scale, right? So, at any size of company, be it the small one or the bigger one, because especially for now, it's getting harder and harder for us to safely meet each other. And also we agree that it's not the best time yet, especially in Indonesia, where people are, spreading across different island, right? So that's another challenge that we are having. But to your questions, any approach or strategies that we are doing, for compensating this, I'm not sure whether this is uniquely to Revoyu, but I'm sure probably other companies are also doing the same thing. I think what I can speak on behalf of my team. I think whenever we hire a new want to hire new team members, even during the interview process, I already started to involve the current team members to engage with the potential new members of the team. So that's to give them a sense of belonging of the process of onboarding new people, right? So because I don't want the current members in the team like surprised that we are hiring this new person. I didn't know about that. So I involve them since day one, even before we offer the new person anything. So typically I do the interview first, and I do give them a case studies, a final chat, and then at the end of the stage, I asked my team members to have a chat with the person. I just told them that just have a casual chat, understand them, get to know them. And the same way with the potential people, I told them that, oh, this is our culture, where we involve everyone so that you guys can know each other. And I encourage the person to ask as many questions as possible about the team leadership, about the style and everything, so that because you are entering a new kind of sport team where it's gonna be like a lifetime, not a lifetime, but like an investment of your time. Majority of your time you will be investing with us. And I told them you don't want to spend your time with someone that you don't like to be, right? So I encourage them to do it. So that's during the interview process. And when it comes to we onboard the person, what I did the most is spend as much time as I could with the persons to educate them about the team and also the company. Typically I ask them for their first week as a learning week, so meaning that those whole week, they don't need to directly do all the work. It's more like I ask them to observe everything in a team, so get to know each other with the team, set a one-on-one meeting with the team members, and then learn everything that we are doing now, list down all your questions, and then we discuss about that. So I think it's encouraging them to get to know what we are doing now, instead of directly, here's the things that you need to do on the first
Right.
week,
Right.
right? So I
Yeah.
give them that. So I think that's a couple of things that I do. So it's basically, if I can summarize, it's get them to learn as much as possible, and then set like a different meetings with different team members so that they can also get like a 360 views of the team and also the company. So
Okay,
yeah.
that makes sense. That makes sense. All right. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Perfect. So, and you've been mentioning your team and well, onboarding and integrating new team members. So I would love to dive a little bit into that. So, as head of content marketing, so first and foremost, what's the purpose of the content marketing team within RevoU?
Yeah, that's a very good questions. And in general, probably different companies might have a different goal for this for the business goal for the content marketing. But as in for Revoyu, because of the business model that we have, there are few key stakeholders that I think quite important for us. That that the content marketing can help to build trust with them, and then to build our authority among those key stakeholders. The first stakeholders is our students, our potential students, where we want to make sure that they see Revoyu as the place for them to study and to really want to be part of the community, because it's not going to be it's a very intensive learning experience for 6 months, and typically most of them are full timer. So they really need to invest a lot of time and a lot of energy, and also not the cheapest, not the cheapest, I would say cheapest alternative for them to learn, right? So it means that they really need to trust and believe that this is a place for them to learn. They spend like a half a year with us basically, right? So that's the first one, the first stakeholders, which is the student. But then after the students enter our study and then learn with us, at the end of the day, because what we want to do is to help them transform their career into tech industries, then a second stakeholders is basically our hiring partners, the companies that will hire our students, right? So that's another key stakeholders that me and my team need to make them believe that our students, like a top-notch students, that regardless their working experience on the field, but they've been trained for very very hard in the previous in the past 6 months, and I think they're ready to even beat the other person that has spent years on doing digital marketing, because of just the learning experience and then the mindset that it built among our alumni, right? So those are the two key stakeholders. And the goal of content marketing team is basically both on the awareness. So for students, typically if they are an early student, so on the marketing funnel, we are making sure that they aware as possible about us, about our learning experience, about our lecture, about the course that we have. But then
Right.
on the similar case on the hiring partners, that making sure that they're aware. And after that, on the stage of considerations, we are convincing them that after about us, that these are a lot of content that you can consume, to make sure that you like convince them, okay, I think Review is the best place for me to learn, or okay, I think Review had a lot of interesting profile of alumni that I think I can tap in and then hire from them. So I think those are like a simplistic explanations of the goal of content marketing, basically.
Right, right. That's clear. Thank you. And it's interesting. I guess dealing with two audiences that are so different, right? When
True.
that must come with a few challenges.
That's true.
So when it comes to content ideation and the production and the distribution, is there any particular aspect that is different now to the way it was a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I'll try to answer that from two perspectives, right? So first perspective is on the business side. I
Okay.
think because of the pandemic, I think everyone, it's probably happening a long time, but because of the pandemic now, it's even more and more company, like you mentioned earlier, what meant investing a lot on producing content. Then
Right.
everyone is wanna get everyone's attention, right? So like company A producing content. So basically everyone is competing with producing content. So what changed, I think, especially what we what we aware is that we, and as a content marketer, we really need to make like a 10x content, or 10x better content than our comparables or competitors, to get the most of our content, right? So be it during our ideations, productions, also distributions. So we cannot just do things in a normal way, because then no one will notice us, and then we get very little benefits out of the content that we produce. So that's, I think, the first element or that change, right? So it really need to to crack our head, like how can we make it like 10 times better than what is already in the market right now, so that we can catch more attentions from our audience. So that's the
Right.
first part. The second part is on the consumers wise. I mean, for now, I think people are being bombarded because of the first part. People are being bombarded with a lot of content right now, right? So everyone is
Right.
giving them content. Um, and also on the other side, news is also being especially like not so good news is being broadcast in every single day, right? Especially during this COVID-19, especially for countries like Indonesia, where the cases is pretty high. So people
Right.
are being frustrated with a lot of negative, sad content. So I think what changed, I think um, what people need right now is something that that can help them to see things from different perspective, or to learn something new, and and to gain some knowledge, right? And that's what the consumer really wants right now. And as a company, we really need to understand that, and to give them exactly what they want and what they need, which is also still relevant that is also still relevant with our business. So it's, we are not giving them a educative content that is totally out of the business, but it's still
Right.
relevant with our business, so that's it's easier for us to convince them. Because what we believe, I think, at RevU, and since back in iPress together with my team, we always believe that we need to make a content that that educate, that really give valuable insights and educate people, on top of just selling our product and service, right? So I'm not saying that we cannot build content or make content that tell people what we are selling, because at the end of the day, this is the business that we are running. But
It's a
on top
basic,
of
of
that,
course.
yeah, exactly. But on top of that, be genuinely care about what your people need, right? So that you are giving something that really educates them, and not just frame it like educating, but 90% it's selling things. So if you want to make an educative content, 100% give them something that they can make it valuable. And then on the
Right.
other side, then you make content about your product or services, right? So I think that's
Right.
what changed right now, I think,
Okay.
on the
All
content
right,
side.
all right, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And so you mentioned from the content perspective, right, addressing two separate kind of audiences: the potential students who could eventually join RevoU as students and undergo the courses in digital marketing, in data science, in technical sales, as you were saying. And on the other hand, the other audience is the potential hiring partners, companies that are going to end up hiring your students. So on one hand, you have people that are, on some cases, either changing industries or just entering the workforce fresh out of university or something like that. On the other hand, you have business owners or decision makers in companies. So quite different
True.
kinds of audiences, right? What are some of the differences from a content strategy point of view you implement when addressing
Yeah,
these different audiences?
yeah, that's very good questions. um, I'll also answer it from two perspectives. So the first one is when we are talking about channel, right? So different when you are a student or potential students, and versus when you are a decision maker, typically you consume different channel, right? So you are somehow there will be some intersections, but majority of your time will be on different channel. So on for students, I think most of the time the channel that that we leverage the most is social media, basically. So we are leveraging our community on Instagram, for example, on
Mhm.
LinkedIn, and experimenting with Twitter, and also TikTok. So we are basically making a lighter type of content that people can directly learn from that. So like, within 2-3 minutes, you learn something from the post that we are producing on our Instagram or LinkedIn, for example. That builds the trust from them, that they are seeing us as a place that, oh, whenever I want to learn something about digital marketing, for example, or tech sales, I can just go to Review's Instagram, and then they have a lot of good content about tech sales, a lot of good content about about digital marketing I can use for my knowledge, or for my even for my job right now. Right. So I think that's in terms of the platform and the type of content that we produce for that platform. So the characteristic for the social media, it's pretty kind of lighter type of content, where we give them those knowledge that can be consumed just within a few minutes. On the other side, on for decisions maker, typically they spend their time a bit of different, right? So sometimes they use social media as of LinkedIn to also see that. So I think it's still, we doesn't mean that we are not leveraging social media to engage with them, but we are leveraging social media that we know that probably most of those people are there, which is in this case, and also the intentions of using that is also for career related stuff, right? So
Right.
for Instagram, maybe some of them are there, but I think the intention is not look for some some employees, right? But when it
Not
comes to
doing all
LinkedIn,
work,
exactly.
basically.
But on LinkedIn, it's less of social, but more like a professional, interaction, right? So we are leveraging those social media to distribute the content. But typically for decision makers, they want to read more. They want to learn something, because it's not going to be an investment of like it's going to be a long term, mid to long term investment, right? So if they want to hire
Right.
someone, so they really need to consume and understand that this is a right partner for us to be. So that we leverage a lot our internal blog. We call it the journal, where we create a lot of profile of our alumni from different background, right? So because the students that join Review, it's really different background. We have a very, the youngest students that we have, or the youngest alumni is 15 years old. When I
Oh,
was
wow.
15 years old,
That is young.
yeah, it was super young. And when I was 15 years old, I was like playing marble with my friends. But this girl is like spending nights and day learning with Revo. I was like, oh, that's really amazing right now. So we featured her profile, and then he's living in Aceh, which is like the not in Java Island. It's like Sumatra, like a top of Sumatra, which
Right.
also another place where we like, oh, it's very interesting. So then we deep dive into her profile. We interview her parents, like understand what makes you supporting her to do this kind of thing, right? So and what makes her decided to join the intensive class. So we do a lot of this profiling of our alumni, and then telling a story behind the story about them. And it's more like an in-depth, because typically for this is the goal for this is basically to showcase to potential hiring partners the quality of our students, and also the quality of people who are in inside of our classes. That's one, which is students. The second part is also our instructors, because typically for some edutech, they just mentions that the name of like Kiku, for example, from Workana. That's all. What we did is we did extra mile. That's what I'm saying, like a 10x better. What we did is that we create like a single page of your profile. So we ask questions like, how is your day to day at Workana? What's your biggest, like the proudest achievement, or and at Workana? What's your recommended book for other people who want to learn about digital marketing, for example? And what's your suggestions if you can go back in the 10 years and start your career? What would you tell yourself different than what you have right now? So we really make this an in-depth profile of our instructors, that also can give an impressions to the potential partners, hiring partners, that oh, not only their student is really really interesting profile, but they have like a top-notch instructors that
Right.
teaches students, and that builds up this confidence from these hiring partners, that okay, I think it's something that we that we can hire from Bravo. So that's, and last but not least, we are also leveraging a lot digital PR, right? So we try as much as possible to be featured in different media with because of our study. So we are not, I think similar case like I did last time at iPress. At Review also, we did a lot of data driven study that we distribute to different media partners in Indonesia and even in Southeast Asia, so that they can use the data and then they can mention Revoyu as a brand. So whenever this hiring partners, typically, when someone pitch you, oh, we want to work with you, we are from Revoyu, the first thing that you will do, typically, will just Google who is Revoyu, right? So
Right.
when you Google that, if a lot of media featuring us, then there will be a lot of news that's, because Google will prioritize Google News itself, right? So
Right.
a lot of news about Revoyu, like news about us, we are launching, but also news about the study that we did and being featured by other media. So I think those few things that we do for the side of hiring partners to build up their confidence on working with us.
Okay. All right. All right. Great. Great. That's great insight. You've been mentioning quite some with different approaches and words, but you've been talking a lot about establishing trust with these audiences, right? And among other things, it's about transparency. So you were sharing, right, featuring a profile of a student, featuring the profiles of the mentors or teachers, and through that have a fuller, going the extra mile in doing that, right, and having like a fuller picture. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, a key takeaway here is that how through being transparent and providing the details and the complete picture, you build that trust. And through the
Yeah.
trust, business grows in a sense. I'm simplifying a bit, right? But
Yeah. I think that's good. That's a good summary, because here's the analogy, right? So if you want to buy a new MacBook Pro, you are probably spending like a 10,000 ringgit, and it's not like a cheap money, right? So it's like a lot of money that you will spend, for example. And before doing that, you will not just, okay, let me just, majority of the people will not just, okay, let me buy, click buy, and then done. You will do
of
a
course,
lot of research. Yeah, you will check a review on YouTube, right? So, and then you are check review on MacBook Pro versus, I don't know, Alienware laptop, and then you do all this comparison. That's basically what we are trying to provide them, because then when they want to join Revoyu, they will spend months of time, and they will spend money, right? So means that they need a content to let them know how it really feels to be part of Revoyu. What's the
right,
review from students at Revoyu? How does it feel? Or what can I learn from Revoyu, right? So instead of them just Googling around, finding no informations, we are providing them a hat that, if what do you want to know? You want to know about learning experience? Here's what you can. Here's the content that you have. You want to know about the instructors? Here's the profile structures. You want to know about the students that probably have similar profile like you? Here's the profile for the students. So basically, given them as much information as possible, so that when they are still in the phase of considerations, they can learn about us. Get in touch with our instructors, with our students, so that they can have more reasons that, okay, I think with all the information that they are providing with me, I think let me join them for the next couple of months. And that's the
right.
trust that I think it's important for most of the business right now to do. The benefit, it's not gonna be, it's not as easy as the leads that you get from ads, in terms of the benefits, but it's more like a long term. It's like complementary strategies that you do on top of whatever marketing activities that you do
Right,
for the business. Exactly.
right,
Exactly.
right. Okay, okay, great, great, excellent. So, Andrew, as closing thoughts, and thank you so much for your time. Any couple of tips you can provide for other people working with content marketing, particularly?
Yeah. So there are a few things that I think can be a practical takeaway for everyone who's watching this right now or later. The first one, I think, the most important part is to really understand what our brand is about, because one of the challenge in doing content marketing is that we stuck on what can I write, or what kind of content that I can produce, right? So, and the first step that you need to do is not to directly jump into thinking about the ideas of content, but to break down your brand into different topics that is not about your brand but related about your brand. For example, in the case of Revoyu, we are an edutech companies. We are a startup. We have our courses. We have our students. So basically, we are make a mind map of related topics that's still relevant to review if you talk about that. So as an example, last time our first data-driven content, it's basically we are ranking university in Indonesia based on their website visits, followers on social media, engagement, etc., etc. Because one of the brand breakdown of review is university, because then we are educations, and it's still relevant, and we can still say that we are making this research because we are an edutech companies, and we work a lot with with students from university. So that's why
Right.
it's relevant with us, right? So
Right.
that's the first tips to really
Okay.
understand your
Okay. I
brand,
like that.
and then break down it into smaller categories, and from that you can start thinking, okay, I can talk about university. Okay, let make something about that. That's the
Right.
first one. The second one is something that I've been mentioning a couple of times, which is focus on really giving values to your customers with your content, right? So if you are making a content about teaching them about something, put extra effort on making those contents and make sure it's as practical as possible for them. A really good example is a lot of these, software as company. Let me give a few examples like an Ahrefs and also HubSpot, where they have a really, really good blog where
Right.
people can learn something for free from them, and it's really practical, right? It's not like a bullshit. Let me give you for one or two tips. For the rest tips, subscribe, or for the rest
I
of
love-
contact us.
Yeah. No. No.
So
It's
it's not
really
like
up there. It's really valuable.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, right. So that their mindset is really to educate people. By educating them, people start trusting them, and oh, let me try their services, right? So those are the second tips, which is genuinely care about the customers and genuinely giving them something that they can learn from that, because you will not lose anything by giving them it, and you will gain something basically for giving those free knowledge to them. That's the second one. The third one, which is something that typically being forgotten by most of marketers, is to put as how do you say, as many thoughts as when you are doing productions in your distributions content, because
Mhm.
sometimes when we are producing content and then we just, okay, I've produced and I've distributed to my Instagram, and that's all. But then there are way more channel that you can redistribute your content, even though you're making your content only for example, Instagram, but you can redistribute that content into different channels, right? So you can
Right.
repurpose the content into different format. For example, in your case, like now, right? So we are making this kind of live videos, and typically we're gonna reshare it on LinkedIn. That's all. But then, if we are being creative, then we can always think about maybe I can repurpose it as a blog post. Then we capture more audience that wants to read,
Right.
not only just watching videos. Or maybe I can turn it into like just an audio and then make like a simple podcast out of that, right? so
Right.
so
Right.
that's so basically the third tips that I can give is to creatively think about what can I do to get more people consume my content. How can I distribute it more into external channels, right? So that's why in the case of us, we are actively producing content for our blog, but that after that we are reaching out to different media, telling them that, hey, we have this blog post and this blog has this data, in case you want to use it, feel free to use it, and please mentioning us when you're using it, or link back to our blog. So then we
Right.
distribute content to other platform. Last but not least, is to, at the end of the day, it's super important for us to evaluate the quality, or the performance of the content, for us to know what content that we should continue doing it, or what content that we should tweak the quality, because
Of course.
sometimes we are too crazy with producing, releasing, but then the question is, what does this the impact of this content to the business, right? So what KPIs do we measure, even though we don't have like a specific, producing this content equals to these leads, but at least we need to have a metrics to understand, do we have enough, or for example, in this case of video, I don't know, maybe the viewers, right? So the viewers after 1 month, after the second month, after the third month, which videos that probably have the most views, and why do we think that has the most views, and then what can we do to have more? So I think those kind of mindset of evaluating and take the learnings and do better after that. That's, I think, my last tips that I can give to everyone who's just watching this right now.
All right, excellent, excellent. I think I agree with all of them. The last one is crucial, because having some objective metric with which to measure the impact, even if it's not like revenue or it still helps to compare, wow, this kind of content is performing better than this other one, and then you can iterate and improve.
Exactly.
As you were saying with the previous tip, repurposing it and making the most of each content you produce. Yeah, makes sense. All right. Hey, great pieces of advice. Thank you so much for sharing.
No problem. Happy to be here.
And all right, and thank you so much for your time and for everybody watching. Let's please keep in touch. And again, everybody watching, do keep tuned, as we'll have more content, hopefully valuable, out there. Thank you, everybody.